What's up, everybody? My name's Big Cam and welcome back to another Monday morning Comically Boston podcast. And every Monday we discuss the last week in nerddom now that we're back for another weekly nerdy news. And not too crazy a week. We had a little bit of new shows dropping. We had a new trailer drop, a couple of movie posters. Last weekend, Supergirl came out, so we'll talk the discourse online with that, and also rank my James Gunn DCU so far with the, 4 or 5 projects that he's done so far. And we'll take a look at what's coming next for James Gunn's DCU. But let's not waste any more time and jump right on into it with the first topic of today being The Bear Season 5, which I believe is the final season of The Bear. And I really loved this show, but it really bugs me that they dropped this as a binge watch and they just dropped it all at once. Which I can still see why, because this show is very binge-worthy. Like, I remember watching season 1 and 2, and it got me, like, I got through 2 seasons in, like, 3 days, because every episode was just so, like, stress-inducing, especially for somebody that, like, if you worked in the food business or food industry, this show just really penetrates to your core, and you're like, oh, I had coworkers like that. I've done shifts like this where you get in, it's a shift from hell. You know what I mean? Like, it's just crazy. And the whole cast in The Bear is phenomenal and just like a really good show, but I've dropped off since season 2 came out, and then season 3 I heard wasn't great, season 4 I heard wasn't great, so I was like, do I get back into it, do I not? If the Rotten Tomatoes score tells you anything, it's sitting at a 97% with 34 critic reviews, and that's like what it debuted at, so maybe season 5 is back to like the prime Bear that we know. So I don't know, maybe me and my roommate will have to put this on the list and start banging through this again. But it's one of those things, like, this show dropped all at once, and now anybody that wanted to see this show watched it over the weekend, and they're talking about it this week. I was busy, I didn't get around to watching The Bear, and now I have to put it on the list. I was watching House of the Dragon last night, so breakdown for episode 2 of House of the Dragon season 3 will be out tonight or tomorrow. I'm gonna record that right after I'm done with this. But there's just other shows on right now. So we've been catching up on like X-Men 97 because X-Men 97 season 2 is about to drop, right? So there's just so much stuff to watch. We're still trying to watch Spider Noir, the Nicolas Cage Spider-Man show, but because that got binge dropped, we just keep putting it off. So like there's 2 now shows that got binge dropped, and I haven't checked out either of them, and I want to, but because they're just kind of big bundles, I'm like, well, I guess I can get to it whenever I want. Where, like, when 1 episode a week comes out, it's just so much easier to watch. You're like, oh, I only need 1 hour. I don't need, like, this 8-hour chunk where I need to binge this whole season. So, like, just sitting down for an hour, watching 1 episode, and then being like, ooh, that's really good, and then talking about that episode for a week, and then watching another episode the next week, right? Like, I like the week-to-week so much more than the binge drops, but that's just me. Have you watched The Bear? Do you want it to be weekly? Would you prefer the binge drops? Comment below your thoughts. Another little project that I'm so interested in was Robert Eggers' Werewulf movie, and he had just released this image the other day of its like first look at Aaron Taylor Johnson in this werewolf movie. And it's supposed to be very medieval with like medieval dialogue and set in like the 1700s or something like that. I'm not sure about that last detail, but either way, it seems like that. It seems like this black and white shot, this he's just barely wearing cloaks. It's not like modern day clothes in any sense of the form, and he's got just a spear, and it seems like he's got some dogs with him, and he's out on some type of hunt. But that's a little first look image of Aaron Taylor Johnson as the werewolf in the werewolf movie, but not necessarily in his full werewolf form. But he also released just this morning, when I woke up I saw this and I was like, oh, I might as well toss it on today's episode. There was a whole trailer that got released for this werewolf movie, so why don't we check that out?
God. Come. Do not dread the darkness. Embrace it. I heard of a raving beast that ravished this country.
Keep my husband safe from his cursedness.
Thy soul is cursed. Thy kin accursed. Thy world is cursed.
Damn, that trailer looks pretty good, especially if you're like a werewolf fan and you know anything about werewolf movies. But like Robert Eggers coming off of Nosferatu, you saw like Willem Dafoe in there, and Lily Rose Depp was in Nosferatu, I think, as well. But Aaron Taylor Johnson as this werewolf, and they spell in werewolf a little funny. But this coming out in Christmas definitely doesn't feel like a Christmas movie. If this was coming out in October for Halloween, I think it would be much, much more like, you know, right on the money. That a werewolf film is exactly what I want to watch during September, October. Christmas, you know, competing against Dune Part 3 and Avengers Doomsday, I don't know if this movie will make a lot of money at Christmas. If I had one piece of advice for Robert Eggers, I would tell him to move this up to Halloween, or even delay it into 2027 or something. I don't know, but I want to see this movie. It's not yet rated, so maybe they're still trying to figure out if it's going to be rated R or fucking, you know, so gory that it's not rated. I'm assuming it's going to be rated R, and there's going to be blood and all types of stuff. There was some blood in that trailer splattering on a girl's face. But maybe they're going to put the whole movie in black and white, so then you can kind of get away with the blood, you know, because it's not red and gory, you know. I don't know. I think it looks really good, though. And like certain parts in that, like just towards the end where Aaron Taylor Johnson looks like he's morphing into a werewolf. Like my favorite werewolf morphing scene is, well, I guess Lupin from the Harry Potter Prisoner of Azkaban, but that's not really my favorite looking werewolf. He's just kind of like pretty good transformation, you know, how they did it from practical into like the full CG. But like still one of the best ones ever is from American Werewolf in London, which is like 81 or something, 1981, and it just like the way that they slowly did it, and the guy put on a practical effect, and like they just took like shots of him, and then they, you know, morphed the shot from one shot to the next shot, and it like the way that it just looked, it looked like he was growing a snout, you know, his fur was growing all over him, the eyes became yellow, the teeth, you know, like you gotta see the full werewolf transformation. If you don't show it, you're just fucking pansies. And like, I mean, Hugh Jackman and Van Helsing's, his werewolf transformation was pretty good, but it was also kind of just like, and then he like rips off his human flesh, and all of a sudden there's like a big giant black CGI werewolf there, which is still pretty sick, but I don't know. I need a really good werewolf and a really good werewolf movie to scare the pants out of me, and it looks like I'm going to get my wish coming Christmas. But sliding into another movie here with Tom Cruise, and when I was over at the theaters this weekend, the trailer I saw for this was hilarious, because it doesn't even really show much of the movie, right? The movie's called Digger, from Alejandro Inarritu, and that's the director and maybe writer as well. Yeah, written by Alejandro as well. Seems like maybe written by some other people he was collaborating with. But it seems like this movie's coming in October 2nd, 2026, and it says Digger, a man, a plan, a meltdown. So, you know, it seems like Tom Cruise is going to be wearing maybe some type of fat suit, maybe prosthetics on his face. He's going to be some type of cowboy, weird guy with a shovel, and he's a digger. I don't know what this movie's about. I have not seen or heard much about it, but like the trailer for this, it was just various shots of Tom Cruise over all of his legendary movies. So it was just like showcasing Tom Cruise's career and all the different parts, from like Top Gun to Tropic Thunder, you know, and everywhere in between. And like, it was just really like, any Tom Cruise fans, you were like, oh yeah, dude, oh that one, Mission Impossible, oh Death of a Vampire, oh War of the Worlds, you know, and you're going through all of them. You're like, damn, Tom Cruise has done a lot of movies. And then it was like, and now Cruise is Digger. And it was like, and it didn't even show much of it, just showed like a shovel. And I was like, what the fuck is this movie? And my buddy leans over and he goes, oh dude, Tom Cruise just loving himself. I go, that's not really Tom Cruise's vibe. Tom Cruise is more about like, any movie I've ever seen him do press for, he's not interested in talking about himself. He's interested in talking about whatever stunt they were doing, right? Like, that's what he's into, right? If he's not promoting, just 100% selling the movie like a car salesman, he's like, dude, this stunt we did was crazy. Let me break it down how I did it. You know, I jumped out of a plane. Like, I'm surprised there isn't another Mission Impossible movie in the works where he's just going to space, you know, but who knows, maybe that will be another few years down the line when the guy turns 70, you know, like, it's crazy that Tom Cruise is in his 60s, like, that's nuts. But moving on from that and into some other news, and this was just interesting, I heard from the Odyssey the other day posted that they will not be hosting any influencer screenings, right? So they normally do the critics screenings, and then they get the influencers, and then the influencers make videos about it, and they spread the word by word of mouth, you know, through the social media platforms, through their bigger, you know, channels. You know, they spread the word of mouth for people to go see this movie. And sometimes that's, you know, a good marketing ploy, and it works. And more, it seems more and more companies, you know, even if they have bad movies, they're just like inviting all these TikTokers with millions and millions of subscribers, and they show up, take some pictures on the red carpet, and now your, you know, movie is out there in the press. You don't need to go on Fallon, you don't need to go on Kimmel, you don't need to take out a paid report in the New York Times. You can just go to social media influencers who are dumb and think that they're like, oh, this is great, and it's just like, I don't know. I've never been a fan of these influencer screenings, especially because some of them then turn around and then like spoil the movie online a couple days later because they're like, well, I saw it. It's like, yeah, but the movie doesn't come out for another month, and now you're fucking it up for everybody else, you asshole. You know, like, so it looks like Christopher Nolan and the Odyssey are going, nah, this movie doesn't need extra press, it doesn't need extra publicity, it doesn't need extra marketing or extra screenings. It will get word of mouth all by itself, and it looks incredible. And I know there's still people out there that are like, no, you know, and like being stupid as fuck and being like, this movie looks bad. If you think The Odyssey looks bad, I do not trust your opinion any way, shape, or form, and you have no business commenting in anybody's comment section if you think The Odyssey looks fucking bad. Oh, I can't wait to see this film. I think this is the next film on my list, and we should be about like 2 or 3 weeks out from this movie, and then 2 weeks after The Odyssey, Spider-Man Brand New Day comes out. So those are the next 2 movies on my list as we continue through this summer. But, you know, we just had gone through Supergirl, so we'll get to that in a moment. But just to talk about Spider-Man Brand New Day for a second and some brief Marvel news, I saw these pictures the other day, and a lot of people had saw these images and these like little slow-mo panels from the Spider-Man Brand New Day trailer, and we had all assumed that they were paying homage to these comic book covers, but it looks like this was something intentional that they were really going for. Like this shot here with you know, Scorpion, and he's you know, hitting Spider-Man with his stinger, and you could see in the live action version of this, you know, with Scorpion punching him and he goes flying up, and he actually is in the snow, and it looks like he's about to land on some truck right behind him. But he also has this little like puffer jacket on, and that's kind of like a nod to Andrew Garfield's Amazing Spider-Man, I think. But then there was also this other shot with Boomerang that I really liked, where like his foot's up and the boomerang's down on the ground behind him throwing the boomerangs. But I like this one in particular because the comic book cover is in the other angle, right? Like on the comic book cover, the right foot up, boomerangs on the left side facing right, and he's throwing boomerangs. But on in this movie version, his left foot is up, his right arm is down, and then boomerangs on the right throwing them up. So I was just like, oh, it's a little like inverse flip of the comic book cover. I like that, where it's not just a spot on, but it's close as they could possibly do. And there's so many more that they're doing in this movie apparently, and there was like a bunch of them they were going through, and this was just a couple of the image that I grabbed from Spider-Man Brand New Day. But, you know, we are just about a month out from that. I think, what, June 31st, July 31st? So we're 2 days from being 1 month out from Spider-Man Brand New Day. So I wouldn't even be surprised if maybe we get another trailer at some point during this month for Spider-Man Brand New Day. And this final trailer probably will be the one that, like, shows Sadie Sink's character and just honestly tells us too much about the movie. Like, personally, I've already seen enough of Spider-Man Brand New Day. I'm gonna be there. I've already purchased my tickets. You know, I'm not worried about Spider-Man Brand New Day being good, but this final trailer, whenever it drops, I'm assuming it's going to be heavily spoiling some things, especially because it's a Sony trailer, you know. So I don't know, just when that drops, be cautious that there could be some stuff in that you're like, I didn't need to know this. I could have just waited for the movie, but oh well, now I know it. You know, that type of thing. But just getting into the last little piece of Marvel news that I saw, and it's a brief spoiler, so, you know, skip ahead a few minutes if you don't want to hear anything about it. But Daredevil Born Again Season 3 has been filming in New York, and just like the previous 2 seasons of Daredevil Born Again, there of course is shots leaking all over the place, and I believe this image was so crispy that I was like, it has to be kind of official, and they're just maybe putting it out like the last 2 seasons, just like, yeah, fuck it, this is what the suit looks like, anybody that's excited, get excited, the rest of you, fuck off, you know, like that type of thing. But, you know, Season 1 he had the all-red suit. Season 2 he had the black suit with the red DDs on his chest. And then throughout the season, the red started poking through the black. And it looked really cool. And it looks like for Season 3, he's taking that inspiration to heart. And it looks like he's got the red in certain parts, down the arms and down, like, the rib cage, if you would. But then most of the torso and legs are black. But then it looks like a more professional DD logo on his chest rather than like the spray painted DD logo that was last season, right? So maybe this is a new suit that somebody made from him. Also, if he's wearing this suit, where did he get it? Because wasn't he supposed to be in prison? How did he not get out of prison? I guess we'll find out in Season 3. But I also really like that mask that he's wearing. It's like the black mask from last season, but now it's got like red trim on the helmet. Looks pretty cool. Looks really cool, actually. It kind of looks like carbon fiber helmet, too. So maybe it's lightweight and extra hard. I'm sure this will be a Hot Toys figures as well, though. So can't wait to purchase that. I know I just got a notification in the mail the other day that my Daredevil from Season 1 of Born Again is almost here. And I'm like, oh, I gotta see that thing. I'm gonna unbox that as soon as possible, for sure. But I've already pre-ordered Season 2. And hopefully I'll be able to pre-order Season 3 sooner rather than later. But just to slide into the final topic of today with the Supergirl discourse, and I have now seen it twice, and I will be 100% transparent with you guys. Sure, there's some things that I didn't like in Supergirl, maybe a needle drop or two, maybe some action sequences could have been better, but after watching it a second time over this weekend, and I went with my buddies and my mom and my sister, and like, so I had like 2 friends and then my family there as well, so like we went as a group, and the girls loved it, you know, they didn't, and they're pretty easy, they watch like CW television, so like, they're a pretty easy audience, and if they liked it, that's their core audience, you know what I mean? Like, I'm a movie buff, so of course I have little notes and critiques. But if they liked it, and if little girls like it, those are who this movie is directed towards. And if you just see a bunch of 40-year-old dudes online telling you that the movie sucks, yeah, maybe the movie's not for them, you know, or maybe the movie's just bad, you know, who am I to say? You know, if you think it's bad, that's your opinion, you know, but like, who are you to tell me that I'm wrong about my opinion? Fuck you, you know, like, you know, so there's so many people that are like, they hear somebody else's thoughts about the movie, and then they just take those as their own thoughts. And then sometimes there's people commenting negative stuff, and they haven't even seen the movie, you know, like, that's my #1 pet peeve. Like, people leaving negative reviews off of someone else's opinion, and they haven't even gone and checked it out themselves. Like, I will always watch something for myself and make up my own opinion on it, you know, whether I know for certain this is how I feel, or if I have mixed feelings about it. You know, I'm always somebody that plays it pretty straight for you guys here when I turn on this camera. But there is some things I did like about Supergirl. The character of Ruthie, maybe we could have gotten more of her character and just like let her do more. You know, I wanted her to use that sword a little bit. Crypto, maybe we could have got more of him as well, especially how Crypto and Kara ended up together type of thing. It was kind of just like, oh, here he is. we're together. You know, like, I was like, where did he come from there, though? Like, how did he get there? Oh, well, he was just going through the trash and she grabbed him. Cool, I guess. Lobo, phenomenal. Freaking great. And then over the weekend I was seeing that some people really like comic book buffs that really love the Woman of Tomorrow story, and I got like more into that, and I was like, yeah, maybe, if they did do a more direct adaptation of the comic, it would have been maybe more epic, the shots would have been more stylized, but overall for what they did, I don't think it was bad in any sense. Like, I don't think it's a 1 out of fucking 5 stars. I gave it like a 3 out of 5 stars my first time around, but I will be transparent. The first time I watched this, I missed the first 10-15 minutes because I was late, stuck in traffic. So this second time watching it, including that 15 minutes that I missed, it's kind of a more complete story, right? Because if you watch my review for Supergirl on Friday, I was like, I felt like something was missing. Well, something was missing. I missed 15 minutes of the movie, right? So after seeing that, it felt like a more complete story. Even if I don't love the movie, I still give it like a 3 out of 5 stars, maybe at most like a 3.5 out of 5 stars. Like a 6 or 7 out of 10. Definitely not higher, definitely not lower for me, but for certain, I want to see more Supergirl, and then when Millie Alcock shows back up as Kara, I'm gonna be hype. I want to see more Lobo, for sure, but I don't know if we'll ever see more Ruthie. That could be a one and done for that character. And I was like, oh, okay, bye Ruthie. I guess maybe we'll see him, maybe we won't. Who knows? It does seem like Krem is maybe a one and done villain, but maybe because he might be dead. Doesn't seem like he's going to be surviving from those wounds. But also, like, after what he did to Crypto and to Kara and to Supergirl and to fucking Ruthie, Krem deserved to die, and I was very glad he did. So that felt satisfying way to end the movie, especially with like Lobo on his bike off in the distance, seeing it and going, yeah, and I was like, yeah, I'm into this. I was here for it, and I just thought it was a good movie all around in the grand scheme of things. But it wasn't like perfect, right? Like most of James Gunn's stuff, I leave and I'm like affected emotionally. I cried. Like there was no real big cry moments in this movie for me. Maybe you get like a little welled up, but like no tears fell down the cheeks. And that's mostly just because I'm a softie, and like the line of her being like, I just want to be good, and like, I might not be nice, you sometimes are mean, but you're good. And it's like, yeah, that's who I am at the end of the day. I'm from Boston. I'm a masshole. I'll fucking cuss you out. I'll be a bigger asshole than you could ever be. But at the end of the day, I'm still a nice guy. And I try to do the right thing and be good, but I will be an asshole if I need to be. Fuck you. But so Rotten Tomatoes, the score for like the critics has been around a 60. I think it might be at like a 57 or something now. But the original debut score was 61% with 74 reviews. And then, they got a cinema score of B-. That's not great, but that's not terrible. B- for me was still passing grades in school. But the Rotten Tomato score the last time I checked was 56%, and it's a little rotten for the critic score with 239 reviews, but audiences are seeming to like it, with audiences sitting around 76%, which is a audience score of like, I like this film, but it's not high enough that everyone's like, this is phenomenal, you have to see it. It's just like, this is good, maybe you can watch it when it comes out on streaming, which for the box office for this movie might hurt. I heard the box office for the opening weekend was very low, lower than Morbius, The Marvels, and Blue Beetle, the lowest opening weekend for a DC movie since Blue Beetle. Like, and that sounds like a diss. I love Blue Beetle. I think it's a tremendous movie. I didn't watch it in theaters, unfortunately, but I still think it's really good. Or maybe I did. It might be a few years ago now that I just don't remember. But just to wrap it up here with James Gunn's DCU and ranking them, and so far I believe this is how the order goes, with the Suicide Squad being James Gunn's first DC project, and then it went Creature Commandos, where like some things from that ended up in Creature Commandos, and then Peacemaker Season 1 I believe was right after the Suicide Squad but before Creature Commandos, right? So I think it goes Suicide Squad, Peacemaker Season 1, Blue Beetle, then Creature Commandos, then Peacemaker Season 2, or actually then Creature Commandos, now I gotta look up the dates. But either way, these are the projects. Suicide Squad, Creature Commandos, Peacemaker Season 1, Blue Beetle, Superman, Peacemaker Season 2. Now, Supergirl was the next thing to come out for James Gunn's DCU. And then I believe it's going to be Lanterns in August and then Clayface in October, right? Even though that poster for Clayface says September. I believe that's coming out in October, maybe even November of this year. But Clayface 100% is going to be the next DCU movie after Supergirl, which feels interesting. They're going to do like a villain movie, but it's also going to be set before Superman, so it's technically going to be the first movie in James Gunn's DCU, maybe even before the Suicide Squad. I'm not sure if that's where the timeline's going to work out. I do need James Gunn to really clarify where the timeline's at. But for me, I think my score ultimately goes Superman is my favorite so far. Peacemaker, season 1 and 2, just combining them together. Creature Commandos, I really did like and I want to see more of. And Supergirl and Creature Commandos are kind of tied for me. But I will say, because of James Gunn's needle drops and the way that Creature Commandos was done, I really like Creature Commandos. So I think it's Superman, Peacemaker, Creature Commandos, Supergirl is where the titles rank for me right now for like the 4. And then if I had to throw in Blue Beetle and the Suicide Squad, they're probably after Supergirl anyways. But next up, we got Lanterns and Clayface, so stay tuned for that, y'all, and more DC stuff will be coming down the line. If you went this weekend and saw Supergirl, please drop your thoughts down in the comment section below, or go check out my movie review that got videoed on Friday. But that's it for me, y'all, and like I said, if you have any thoughts about what we talked about today, or if you want to drop your ranking for James Gunn's DCU down in the comment section below, or you can send them to my other social medias, links for those down in the description below. But if you made it this far and you'd like to support the channel, the best way of doing that is dropping a like on this video, commenting down below, subscribing if you haven't already, and hit that bell so you don't miss future Comically Boston weekly nerdy news podcasts every Monday, and you get the notifications when those come out. Once again, my name is Big Kim, and I'll see you gorgeous folks in the next video. Peace!